Yeah, it's interesting. So you mentioned using versus building
Mhm.
containers. So let's talk first about using a little bit. So how do you use containers in the development lifecycle?
Yeah, so I will say for anybody who hasn't started using containers or doing stuff with containers, using them first is a great way to get kind of introduced to what it means to run Docker containers and stuff. And the best way that I can think of to do that is to use Docker containers or containerization in general in, let's say, your DevOps build chain. So for example, let's say you're running a Jenkins server, and in the classic world, your ops team, your DevOps team somewhere, your development engineering teams will be running this Jenkins build server, and it's got kind of a master that dictates things, and then it's got a bunch of agents that do work, and those typically are a bunch of VMs. Well, by going to something like Docker, suddenly now you're able to just bundle these tools together. So if you're using, I don't know, Maven to build your applications or build some of your applications, but let's say maybe you also have some Windows apps that are being built with something other than that. Well, in the old world, you would need like a Windows VM and you would need a Linux VM, and you'd have to scale these things out. Well, with Docker, again, you get much more efficiency and you get a lot of variety, which is I can use standard Maven containers, standard Java containers, standard, Node.js containers to launch all my little build services as part of my pipeline. And I don't need these huge build servers to be able to do that. It also makes it much easier to scale, which is if I start building more and more services, more and more applications, I can scale these things out very easily using Docker. It means you can also start leveraging stuff like you go from your classic kind of Jenkins, I run my own server, to let's say I want to do this with GitHub. I can use GitHub Actions, Circle CI, or a lot of these kind of online hosted frameworks where I just tell them, here's a Docker container to execute to be able to build the code that I want, right? So it's a very rapid kind of entry into the how do I get my build pipelines to really scale and grow up that much. So, and that's one of the things I've definitely seen a lot of. What's also nice, by the way, is by declaring what those containers are and saying I'm running Maven, 3.1.2 or, Java JDK 11.2, right? I can use those on my build server by pulling them off the internet and just boom, off I go and run them. Well, the developers can also run these exact same versions of the tools in their local environment. So it becomes much, much easier to kind of specify, if you will, the development tools that need to be. Long gone are the days where I have to spend 4 days, installing various development tools and other junk on my laptop just to be able to build a piece of software. I can just run some scripts with a few Docker commands in it and get all that stuff to build from the command line with really no problem at all.